Morning. It's currently 7:13 in Hormiguero, Puerto Rico, and I'm ready to get deeper into this thing. What's up, guys? Welcome back to another video. In this video, we're going to read chapter 2 of the Fellowship of the Ring, which is, you guys are seeing the title, I'm not. It's The Shadow of the Past. So, just a quick recap of chapter 1. In chapter 1, it was basically the farewell or the abandonment of Hobbiton by Bilbo. Bilbo made this huge party. Bilbo wanted to exit with a prank or with a surprise, and the surprise was that he just disappeared, put his ring on, became invisible, and Gandalf made some fire. That was basically it. So quick, just before getting into the content, I want to apologize for not answering yet, because I will, but for not answering the comments that you have written in past videos. As I've told you before, I'm a double major at a university in Puerto Rico, and university coursework is killing me. I apologize. It's just I'm being real busy, and just making this video alone are taking a lot of time. But I will answer to your comments. Please keep letting me know what you think and what your reactions are, because I really love reading every single one of your reactions. Okay, now without further ado, let's go. I have read only 2 pages, and I have so much to tell you and ask, because it's just a lot of information, and it seems this will be the norm here with these books, because it's just a lot. So chapter 2 begins with Bilbo celebrating, even though Bilbo left a long time ago now. Frodo keeps celebrating Bilbo's birthday in the correct date, right? Bilbo became like a Hobbiton legend. Even though the true events were forgotten, his legend lived through time, that he disappeared with a bang and appeared with gold and jewels and everything. But still, the general opinion of Bilbo was that he was cracked, that he was crazy, that he was just weird or queer, as they said it in the book. And it seems, or they thought, the Hobbiton community, that Frodo was, through time, becoming more and more like Bilbo. For example, it says people began noticing when Frodo got to 50 years old that he too didn't seem to age. Frodo too seemed to have this eternal beauty. Frodo didn't seem to age, neither did Bilbo, right? As I read this, I'm thinking that's the effect of the ring. If you are in possession of the ring, maybe you're not using it, but if the ring is close to you, maybe you don't age. That's it. Please tell me that's it in the comments, please. I have to get something of this story. Bilbo keeps celebrating the birthday, and when people ask him why he keeps doing this, he says, because I don't think that Bilbo is dead. I think I'm confusing the names. I said Frodo keeps celebrating Bilbo's birthday. Okay. And when people ask, okay, then where is he? Where is Bilbo? He says, like, I don't know, but I know he's not dead. So he keeps celebrating his birthday, with Bilbo's birthday, with feast and all this. One weird thing, but not that weird, is that Gandalf haven't visited in a long time. He hasn't visited in like 3 years or years or something. Which, by the way, making a parenthesis in this conversation, I haven't been able, like I said before, to answer your comments. And I know that one of you guys told me that I was, in essence, comparing Gandalf too much to this Dumbledore type of wizard, which is all powerful and whatnot. I just want to say that you are 100% correct. because it's inevitable. I like Harry Potter very much, and the character of all this powerful wizard, just as Dumbledore was created in Harry Potter, the Harry Potter series. Man, I loved that. It was just, I don't know, it pumped me up. I mean, I know I've talked about this in these videos again and again. I don't know, I just want to say, before I answer those comments in detail, I just have to get used to it. You know, I just have to keep reading. Okay, closing this parenthesis. Gandalf hasn't visited in years. What does that mean? Man, the last time he disappeared for a long time, and it wasn't this long, it was because he was fighting some evil stuff. I think Gandalf is used to visit his friends unless there is some evil that he has to take care of or fight or something. Frodo seems to be like bored without Bilbo. He wanders, he walks, he gets to the edges of what they know as the Shire, of what they know in their maps, and he explores, he talks to wanderers, he talks to strangers, and gets information, which we get to the point. It says that, and I'll read it, there were rumors of strange things happening in the world outside, and as Gandalf had not at the time appeared or sent any message for several years, Frodo gathered all the news he could. Elves and dwarves were passing in abnormal numbers through that east-west road, old east-west road, is that it? And Bilbo asked them, what is it that is unusual that these things are happening? And the rumor says that, and I read again, they were troubled, and some spoke in whispers of the enemy and of the land of Mordor. What is the land of Mordor? I don't know. So I went back to this map in the back of the book. For a more efficient observation, I'll put a picture of this up in the video. But as you can see, Mordor is on the bottom right, as I learned, as I observed. Man, this map is way bigger than I thought.
That's what she said?
I mean, the map that I was used to look at in the Hobbit book was much smaller. Even the distances seem smaller. I mean, Mirkwood is very big, and the Shire is way far from Mirkwood. And the Hobbit book map made it seem like it was just, you know, an hour's walk or something like that. These elves and dwarves and whatnot seem to think that there is some evil in the Mordor land. And that land is weird because it's surrounded by mountains. It even looks unnatural, right? Because all the other mountains are like following a line and just nature and but these mountains are like in a square formation. So it's almost like someone made them that way. And so the last paragraph I read before I stopped said that, and I'll read it almost entirely because it's very interesting. It says, that name the hobbits only knew in legends of the dark past, regarding something of the enemy and of the land of Mordor. So it says, that name the hobbits only knew in the legends of the dark past, like a shadow in the background of their memories. It was ominous and disquieting. It seemed that the evil power in Mirkwood had been driven out by the White Council, only to appear in greater strength, and in the old strongholds of Mordor. There was an evil power in Mirkwood. Okay, let me stop right there. I guess that's the evil power that Gandalf went to deal with in The Hobbit. When Bilbo was with the dwarves and the dragon stuff and situation and whatnot, Gandalf left them to deal with something in Mirkwood, but just on the bottom of Mirkwood, right? I'm guessing that's the evil that the White Council drove out. But what is the White Council? Regarding the information that I've been spoiled with just a tiny bit regarding wizards. So I understand wizards has something to do with colors, and Gandalf is of gray color. Is the White Council like a wizard, you know, council that fights evil? So whatever it was, it says that it seems that like the evil power in Mirkwood had been driven out by the White Council, only to reappear in greater strength in the old strongholds of Mordor. The Dark Tower had been rebuilt, it was said. The Dark Tower. What is the Dark Tower? It said from there the power was spreading far and wide, and away far east and south there were wars and growing fears. Orcs were multiplying again in the mountains. Trolls were abroad, no longer dull-witted, but cunning and armed with dreadful weapons. And there were murmured hints of creatures more terrible than all these, but they had no name. Man, it's like wars happening. Everything changed. I mean, the story suddenly took a huge turn. Because if we make a recap for everything we have read at the moment, everything was all sunny and shiny in The Hobbit. They were just looking for treasure, right? The Hobbit ends. Chapter 1. Bilbo leaves Hobbiton because he wants more adventure. He's tired of being forever young and just immortal, seemingly immortal, and doing nothing, just existing. Till this point, everything is, let's say, PG. Now, something appeared in this strange land of the south, where dwarves are fleeing, elves are leaving, orcs are multiplying just because apparently they look at this thing as an opportunity. Trolls are not dumb anymore. I mean, what's happening? Trolls are arming themselves and getting ready for something. Strange creatures are appearing. Apparently even more sadistic creatures than orcs and trolls. I mean, what the hell is going on? Gandalf hasn't visited in years, so obviously he seems to be dealing with this. There are these two characters, Sam Gamgee and Ted Sandyman. They are kind of debating in front of some people about the truthfulness of the stories that people are telling. The stories about new dragons, or the stories about new beasts and new giants and new dangers in the world. Basically, this Ted Sandyman character is skeptic about everything that people say. He says they are just stories and fantasies, and this Sam Gamgee character just believes them. I think Sam Gamgee works for Frodo. One day when Sam was walking home from work, he saw that Gandalf reappeared to visit Frodo. And there are a lot of things that I want to read to you guys, because this is, I think, very critical in the story. So Gandalf starts, I guess, talking with Frodo, drinking, they sleep on. The next day, when they wake up and they have breakfast, they continue their conversation. Frodo says, and I'll read it. "Last night you began to tell me strange things about my ring, Gandalf," said Frodo. "And then you stopped because you said that such matters were best left until daylight. Don't you think you had better finish now? You say the ring is dangerous. Far more dangerous than I guess." "In what way?" "In many ways," answered the wizard. "It is far more powerful than I ever dared to think at first. So powerful that in the end it would utterly overcome anyone of mortal race who possessed it. It would possess him." So I basically got it right when I was describing what Bilbo felt in the first chapter, that it kind of manipulated you. And that's some strange magic, because I'm reading that these are elven rings. So they are elven. I don't quite remember if the elven king is necessarily an elf. Please help me with that in the comments. The elven ring is an elf, right or not? It's just the name of a city. What is it? Elven rings. Elven. Because I know there's an elven king, not an elf king. Is there a difference? So I'll keep reading what Gandalf says. "In Eregion, long ago, many elven rings were made. Magic rings, as you call them. And they were, of course, of various kinds. Some more potent and some less. The lesser rings were only essays in the craft before it was full grown. And to the elven smiths, they were but trifles, yet still to my mind dangerous for mortals. but the great rings, the rings of power, they were perilous. Okay, first of all, are the elven smiths immortal? Because as I understand it, Gandalf is basically saying to them the rings didn't do nothing, but to anyone from mortal race, it would be, mortal, or it will be dangerous. Gandalf keeps saying, a mortal, Frodo, who keeps one of the great rings does not die, but he does not grow or obtain more life. He merely continues until at last every minute is weariness. So it's weird. The ring, so it doesn't let you die, but it's not, you don't get more life. But if you don't die, then you are getting more life. So how is it that you don't get more life, but you don't die? Isn't that contradictory? Isn't that? Because I understand to an extent that, as Gandalf says, the one with the ring does not grow or obtain more life. He merely continues. So what does that mean? Does that mean like there will come a time when the ring fully possesses you that you are like brain dead? Like you don't die, you are alive, but you're technically not there? Is it like a brain dead human type of situations that technically you're alive, but you're not there, you're not alive? Gandalf continues to say, as if he often uses the ring to make himself invisible, he fades. He becomes, in the end, invisible permanently, and walks in the twilight under the eye of the dark power that rules the kings. Okay, I'm gonna stop there again. The rings are elven rings. They are made of, the elven smiths made the rings, but the elven smiths are good people, right? They are not part of this dark power stuff. So why would the ring have dark power if the elven smiths made them? Yes, sooner or later, if he is strong or well-meaning to begin with, but neither strength nor good purpose will last. Sooner or later, the dark power will devour him. That's basically that's literally Gandalf's explanation for the rings. Gandalf and Frodo begin to talk that was basically what Bilbo was experiencing. He was not aging, he was obviously not dying, he was alive. He felt good, but not that good, because as year passed, Bilbo explained that he felt thin and stretched, which is basically the same explanation of how the ring actually makes you feel. And Gandalf explains that in his White Council, there's like these chief or head of the table, head of the board, I guess, of a name Saruman. Let me see. Saruman the White. So Saruman the White is the chief of the order and head of the council. I'm having doubts about this Saruman the White character, because Gandalf says that he is basically leaving the rest of the council on the dark about the rings. He's sketchy. He does not explain to the other council members all the lore about the rings. So Saruman basically led Gandalf to believe that the rings were not that dangerous. But Gandalf is explaining that as he observed Bilbo when Bilbo had the ring, at first he didn't panic. At first he wasn't concerned because Bilbo seemed to be okay. But the last time Gandalf and Bilbo had a conversation, Gandalf observed how the ring was already possessing Bilbo. And that's when he got Gandalf. That's where Gandalf got scared and really concerned about the situation. I guess this Saruman, the White character, is very sketchy. He's not being transparent with the ring's lore. At least Gandalf knows that they are very dangerous to any mortal that possesses them. But as I understand it, Gandalf is not mortal. Right? Gandalf is immortal. So if Gandalf is immortal, if that's true, then why would he leave the ring to Frodo? Frodo's mortal, he is not, so maybe Gandalf should have the ring because it wouldn't do anything to him, right? Okay. Before I keep reading, man, this is getting so good. Before I keep reading, I'm gonna tell you where I am right now. I'm gonna look for something to drink, and then I'll come back. Okay, Gandalf is explaining to Frodo that as soon as Bilbo left the ring and by his own decision left the ring to Frodo, or just it was not his possession anymore, the ring's effect on Bilbo began diminishing until there came a time where he wasn't under any influence of the ring. But now, and I'll continue to read, Gandalf says to Frodo, ever since Bilbo left, I have been deeply concerned about you and about all these charming, absurd, helpless hobbits. It would be a grievous blow to the world if the Dark Power overcame the Shire, if all your kind, jolly, stupid Bolgars, Hornblowers, Boffins, Brace Girdles, and the rest, not to mention the ridiculous Bagginses, became enslaved. Then Frodo says, but why should we be? And why should he want such slaves? And I think that's a stupid question, because it's like asking why do evil people do evil things? Well, who the knows? Evil just exists. You know what I mean? But okay, Gandalf says, to tell you the truth, I believe that hitherto mark you. He has entirely overlooked the existence of hobbits. You should be thankful, but your safety has passed. He does not need you. He has many more useful servants, but he won't forget you again. And hobbits or miserable slaves would please him as far more than hobbits happy and free. There is such a thing as malice and revenge. Bro, this is getting nasty. This dark force, whatever it is, has overlooked the existence of hobbits. So that's why hobbits are such critical points in the story, because it's the only way to beat this, right? Because how would you attack something you're not expecting, that or something that you do not know of? But even if that was the tactic to use, it is not anymore, because now he knows about the Hobbit. And okay, so Gandalf talks about malice and revenge against the hobbits, and Frodo asks the logical question, revenge for what? I still don't understand what all this has to do with Bilbo and myself and our ring. And Gandalf says, it has everything to do with it. You do not know the real pearl yet, but you shall. I was not sure of it myself when I was last here, but the time has come to speak. Give me the ring for a moment. God damn! I'm gonna look for something to drink. 1 second.
A few moments later.
Okay, I'm back. Let's hear Gandalf magical gossip. Gandalf says, give me the ring for a moment. I'm gonna read it. Okay, so I'm half into the gossip and lore about where the ring came from. This is what I've read. So the ring was made by Sauron the Dark Lord, or the Dark Force, or whatever. This particular ring is the most powerful ring because it's the one ring to rule them all. This is the same one ring that is mentioned in the poem that I didn't understand then when I read the first chapter. So what Gandalf does when he asks for the ring from Bilbo, he takes the ring, he throws it into the fire, he leaves it there for a moment. He takes it out, but the ring is not hot. The ring is pretty cold. It's normal. What appears are some letters that appear like this. Let me see if you can see it. No, wait, like that. Those letters appear on the ring, and those letters mean one ring to rule them all, one ring to find them, one ring to bring them all, and in the darkness bind them. So these rings are by definition evil, because these rings are all made by, well, not all, but most of them are made by Sauron the Dark Lord. But these two lines are part of the whole poem that says, 3 rings for the elven kings under the sky, 7 for the dwarf lords in their halls of stone, 9 for mortal man doomed to die, 1 for the Dark Lord on his dark throne. In the land of Mordor where the shadows lie, 1 ring to rule them all, which is the Bilbo's ring. 1 ring to find them, 1 ring to bring them all, and in the darkness bind them. In the land of Mordor where the shadows lie. Which makes me question why, the Dark Lord was the shadow or whatever was in the Mirkwood once, right? Why would he take a chance on Mirkwood when the prophecy actually says that everything would happen in Mordor?
Wait a minute.
You know what I mean? Why didn't he try to be in Mordor in the first place? Frodo is basically shocked to hear this. He's like, how the did I came to have this ring? How did Bilbo came to have this ring if this ring has so much history and so much dark history? The Shadow has been looking for this particular ring because I think it's almost an all-powerful ring for a long time, but he thought of it lost. The actual story of how Bilbo came to have it is that the Shadow was fighting 2 elven kings that were very brave and honorable and had cunning to fight the darkness, but they died while suppressing this dark power. I think it was their son that cut the ring from the darkness hand and took it for himself. Some, I think, orcs were attacking him when he was swimming in a river. The ring fell from his hand. They saw him, they killed him with arrows. The ring was never to be found again. Until, and this I will try to read because it's interesting. It says, long after, but still very long ago, there lived by the banks of the great river on the edge of Wilderland a clever-handed and quiet-footed little people. I guess they were of hobbit kind, akin to the fathers of the Stoors, for they loved the river and often swam in it, and made little boats of reeds. There was among them a family of high repute, for it was large and wealthier than most, and it was ruled by a grandmother of the folk, stern and wise in old lore, such as they had. The most inquisitive and curious-minded of that family was called Smeagol. He was interested in roots and beginnings. He dived into deep pools. He burrowed under the trees and growing plants. He tunneled into green mounds, and he ceased to look up at the hilltops, or the leaves on trees, or the flowers opening in the air. His head and his eyes were downward. He had a friend called Deagle, of a similar sort, sharper-eyed, but not so quick and strong. At one time they took on a boat and went down to the Gladden fields, where there were great beds of iris and flowering reeds. There Smeagol got out and went nosing about the banks, but Deagle sat in the boat and fished. Suddenly a great fish took his hook, and before he knew where he was dragged out and down into the water to the bottom. Then he let go of his line, for he thought he saw something shining in the riverbed, and holding his breath he grabbed it. Then up he came spluttering, with weeds in his hair and a handful of mud. And he swam to the bank, and behold, when he washed the mud away, there in his hand lay a beautiful golden ring, and it shone and glittered in the sun, that his heart was glad. But Smeagol had been watching him from behind a tree, and as Deagle gloated over the ring, Smeagol came up softly behind and said, "Give us that, Deagle, my love," said Smeagol over his friend's shoulder. "Why?" said Deagle. "Because it's my birthday, my love. I want it." And it's... So Deagle, I already know that it's Gollum. Smeagol is Gollum. And he already talked the way... before he was even called Gollum, he already talked in that way. Instead of "I want it," he says, "I want it." Another thing, why is he saying to his friend, "my love"? Because Deagle is a boy, right? So is that like that kind of species said to each other, "my love"? I don't get it. So whatever it is, Deagle says, "I don't care. I have given you a present already, more than I could afford. I found this and I'm going to keep it." And Smeagol says, Gollum, "Oh, are you indeed, my love?" And he caught Deagle by the throat and strangled him because the gold looked so bright and beautiful. Then he put the ring on his finger. I don't know what to think of this. So, did the ring made Gollum kill his friend? Or was Gollum already evil in his heart and killed his friend? Or is it that just the mere sight of the golden ring and all that comes from it made Gollum kill his friend? I mean, why did Gollum kill his friend? I mean, it wasn't a stranger. It was his friend. So basically, Gollum Smeagol became hated by his own community. It says they kicked him and he beat their feet. He took thieving and going about muttering to himself and gurgling in his throat. So they called him Gollum and cursed him and told him to go far away. And his grandmother, desiring peace, expelled him from the family and turned him out of her hole. So he was expelled from the family. He basically went up walking about the river. He found that he hated the sun basically. So he found this cave under mountains near to rivers. And that's basically where he encountered Bilbo, or better said, where Bilbo encountered him. Okay, people, so I read too much and I ended up finishing the chapter. So I'll tell you everything that I've read. So Gandalf is telling Frodo everything about Gollum's history. So Gollum's ancestors have a connection to hobbits. Frodo doesn't believe this because he thinks Gollum is an abomination and how come he has hobbit descendants and whatnot. And Gandalf says that this is only too true, and that it was because he has this connection with hobbits that his encounter with Bilbo was so significant, so important, and one of a kind in the Ring's history. Because in a way, it was because they knew a lot about each other. It was only because of that Bilbo was able to win or to leave Gollum. So apparently the ring is so magical and psychologically powerful that it makes you like hate and love yourself at the same time. Gandalf says that Gollum loved the ring but hated it too, because it's something weird. In other words, Gandalf said, behind that there was something else at work, beyond any design of the ring maker. I can put it no plainer than by saying that Bilbo was meant to find the ring, and not by its maker. In which case, you also were meant to have it. And that may be an encouraging thought. I don't understand it, guys. I mean, help me understand in the comments. Explain to me how this works. Because I understand that Gandalf said that the ring is trying to find its way to its maker, to the shadow, to the Dark Lord, but for some reason it was meant and destined to be obtained or had by Bilbo and Frodo. Why Bilbo and why Frodo? They're not more powerful than the Dark Lord. I don't understand. Long story short, to not read every single paragraph, Gollum left. Even though Bilbo left, the ring's power over Gollum was disappearing in time. Gollum was still obsessed with the ring, so he left to look for Bilbo. He found information, but at some point he left the path. At that time, Gandalf stopped looking for him. Gollum ended up in Mordor, talked to the Dark Lord, whatever happened there, and now Gollum is enslaved, or understandably, Frodo is full of hate, let's say, to Gollum because of everything Gollum has done and everything Gollum did to Bilbo. But Gandalf is trying to make Frodo understand that Gollum's life hasn't been easy. And Gandalf is explaining how dangerous is this ring. And Frodo is obsessed with, why did I have it? Why did you let me have it? Why didn't you take it? Why didn't you destroy it? Why don't we destroy it? And whatnot. And Now the point is that Gandalf laughs and says that the ring can't be destroyed. And Frodo is like doubting him, and Gandalf says, you want to destroy it? Okay, go ahead. And the ring cannot be destroyed by a sledgehammer, by fire, by anything. Neither Frodo nor Gandalf can. After a long silence, they noticed that something weird was happening. Someone was eavesdropping, listening to them. Voila, Sam Gamgee was eavesdropping. Long story short, they made him be Frodo's companion in his trip, because Frodo has to leave the Shire because the Shire is in danger with him being there, because the Dark Lord wants to find him, because the Dark Lord already knows that Sam Baggins has the One Ring. So guys, what can I say? Definitely I have to process this information. It's a lot happened in this chapter. As I've told you before, I'm a slow reader, so I've been reading for hours just to finish this chapter. I really don't know what to say. I was going to recap the chapter, but I really don't know what to say because it's a lot of information. So I'll just see you in the next chapter. Bye.